All right. I think I'm all set. Took me a bit. All right. Hey. Howdy, Xavier. Good to have you there. Whoa, what's this game? Is this some fancy new Night Rain mod? Yep. Yep, I managed to mod Night Rain. I got it on PC, modded it, and what do you know? Really beautiful, huh? Based it on what we got at that ending, you know? Really nice, cool land with the giant golden tree. Was very happy to see people had already tried to recreate the map. Here we are. Let's see. Now I have to resist the urge to try to kill every goddamn bug first thing I see him. It's like, no, I will not kill the bug. It's not happening. Yeah, let me turn that up a bit. So, like, that's fine, right? Alright. So... So the crater appears about here. The rotted wood appears about here. I'm just trying to see if I have this right. The first peak appears around here. And then Noclateo appears around here. If we were to put this relative to the map. Now, I assume that the first peak isn't supposed to be here. It's supposed to be probably somewhere right, like here or something. But I have questions now, because again, it's supposed to be the first peak or whatever. They talk about it being hidden and stuff, so I have to look more into that. The forest could be theoretically anywhere, right? Because I don't recall if there's anything specific about the way that forest looks that we could pinpoint to a specific place on the map, right? It's just a really giant forest with some big trees that extend to the water, as I recall. The crater is supposed to be a volcanic crater that's like a caldera. So I don't know about that either. Like, what part of the map is it supposed to be revealing? Like, I can believe it's a part of Limgrave, just because we have similar ruins here in High Road Cave, and they obviously put it purposefully there. Which makes me wonder if it's the same thing with Noclateo. Like, it's supposed to be somewhere, like, here-ish. Yeah, let's look from here. Yeah, there's an entire... Like, you could definitely make a case for something here. Or somewhere here. Woo! Oh. Where there's just, well, you know, it's a Loki stream. Where there's just stuff that you could put an entire Eternal City where no one else sees it. And it's definitely doable. Yeah, and this stuff is also supposed to clearly have an ending point. Yeah. See, all this is supposed to have rock stuff that stops and hides it, right? Weird how the rocks look strangely snow-covered. Like, is that just because the low res, or? No, it continues here. Huh. Well, that's... Yeah, that's a little odd. Technically, the volcano shifting earth connects Rao with the forges. I'll have to look at it more closely, but I do recall seeing some ancient Civ ruins there. And we have the similar ruins also here, right? So I could believe it. Because otherwise, we don't really see a lot of signs of quote-unquote Rao ruins, right? But we don't see any AC ruins until we get towards the water area with the highway things, right? There's all this section where you could feasibly believe everything is buried underground or something. This I find interesting, though. Because, yeah, it's very clearly two different type of rock side formations. And I don't know how I feel about that. They seem to use it here, too. Looks like they used it for this as well. Let's go there, though, just to see for ourselves. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've never noticed this before. But yeah, the rock tops, the outer crops here, they look like they're covered in something. Oh, now it looks like it's the same stuff here, though. Let's do it from here. Now I'm curious. It doesn't look like that by comparison here. Yeah, I wonder if the idea is, like, Noclateo is, like, somewhere here, behind, like, some of the stuff we see in Noctron that we can't really access. I wonder... Let's look around here. Yeah, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. Really not sure. Because, like, you can see the stark difference between that and that. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about rocks, especially underground rock, to know Like, is that supposed to be snow? If so, is it supposed to just because it's cold down here? So some of the water and the moisture turns to ice on the rocks because they're so cold? Is it... Is the idea because, you know, there's light and stuff happening here, so it generates enough heat to keep the place moderately warm, but when you get over to here and this abandoned part with Moglin and stuff, it's not as strong? I don't know. I'm not sure what the intention is. No, I don't. Let's think. So, Mistwood, we're thinking around here. Right? This is about as far out as we got for ruins connecting to Nokron and stuff. Nothing volcanic being revealed here, by the way. Which honestly might also be related. Like, I still don't know what the cause of the lava is. If we find that, and we know what the cause of the lava is, we might be able to then limit it to what areas could potentially have that crater. That seems to be the idea, is that the reason why there's a crater is it's supposed to be a caldera, right? So you have, instead of a proper volcano, you just have volcanic activity in a collapsed crater, which is what I would assume is the idea of why that's happening there. Because the only other volcano we have is a mountain that, you know, spills lava, that's melting and spewing lava because of the snake god.
Is anybody there? Someone who might be interested in risk?
Yeah. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, Noclatail's gonna be the most interesting, I think, the most interesting aspect to discuss from the Night Rain, I think. Because it's considered an Eternal City. It is separate from any of the other cities, as far as we can tell. Like, I don't think it corresponds to the Nameless Eternal City. But it doesn't seem like it's built for the underground, right? It definitely looked like it would have been built on the surface, right? It's mentioned that it's sealed underground, but appeared on the surface there. So there's at least some opening there that, okay, maybe it was originally on the surface and then had gone underground, right? So it would be like perhaps the original Nox capital, right? There's at least, though, some plausible deniability, because it's also described as part of the Eternal Cities in general, right? So there could make the case that it's just another Eternal City we just haven't seen before. And we also see evidence inside that's doing the same stuff, with, like, the turning people into rocks experiments thing. What do you put it? The whole Night Lord thing, because isn't there, like, a Night Lord and a throne there, where you fight Estelle? Yeah. Also, it's not too crazy to have an Eternal City that is a bit more normal-ish, because as I recall, there's not a lot of underground features here in this one, right? Like, it's a similar thing where it's big and open, like the above ground. So, you have buildings that are also laid out pretty normally. Nothing that's, like, connected to like ceilings or rock walls or something like that, really, right? Yeah, it's just like separate buildings with Oh, I can't go out this way. Like you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah, if it wasn't... Yeah, the only thing that's really out of place here is that there's the obvious cliffside stuff here. So it's very obvious that the city stuff extended across 2 plains, right? Unlike Noclateo, which was clearly all built on, like, one foundation. Noclateo also has, it's also designed to be, like, have a moat, as I recall. Like, maybe I'm forgetting, but does it have, like, a bunch of, like, water stuff that's, like, spilling out of its, like, sides of its walls and stuff? And it has, like, a sewer system and things, so it's very clearly built as if it's supposed to be on and surrounded by water. So maybe you can make a further case, then, for what I had here, right? There's all this water here, so maybe the idea is, like, somewhere back here, behind Nokron and behind what we could see here, there's this, like, old city. Another weird thing, though, is they talk about how it's destroyed, but it obviously, at least physically, doesn't look destroyed. Now, granted, it could be in the case that, like, it's destroyed, because destroyed in this context would mean something that's, like, no longer, it's no longer serving its function, right? And in that context, you just need to have it be depopulated. It also mentions how that happened overnight, or in a single night, or however you want to word that, right? But it's very obviously supposed to be this thing where some incident happened that very quickly took out its population and left just a ghost town, right? And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that ghost town is that severely damaged. Like, I think I saw some destruction when going through the sewers, right? But that's not that crazy because, you know, they're sewers, right? Like, they're gonna have a bunch of rubble and stuff like that's normal. Well. Yeah. So the question is just, was Noclateo ever on the surface, or was it another Eternal City that was built underground and then was destroyed, quote-unquote, underground for similar reasons as Nocron? Because again, so far, the Nameless Eternal City is the only city we see that doesn't have the rock statue boys. So it's the only one that doesn't have an excuse of, oh, everybody died. Well, we know several forces that are trying to all get here. We see Black Knight Assassins, we see Undead. Well, not really undead, but like they're supposed to be dead, but they're not really dead. Headless zombie boys, right? With trolls and things. And the Fallen Hawks. Which makes me raise an eyebrow. And there's also the headless guys connected to Miquella. So, lots of questions there. We also know that there could be additional history added as well, because like the rotted wood, the idea seems to be that rot infesting a forest that was already there in the part of Linveld, and as it spread, some of the forces that were already there, namely Godric's forces, stayed there. They built the lighthouse thing, quote unquote, the lighthouse fort, to help keep the rot away. They also apparently are the responsible for cultivating those Miquella flower things that are throughout the area. And then, from what I can tell, the idea seems to be, they were doing research on, like, the trees that, like, you know, defend against the rot or whatever and all that, and, like, found they're the ones who leave the clue. Which is all fine and dandy. But that also means we have to take into consideration that what we see in Noclateo might be, like, additional history slapped on after it entered the night area. Like, I don't know how much I should be taking, like, seeing, headless, mausoleum wandering guys there. And pages. Oh, they're pages? They're headless too, right? They're headless pages, I assume? Because otherwise, then it's really weird if the pages are completely unaffected. Because not a lot of other places you can put the page, the Noclateo. You have Nameless Eternal City here, so Leyndell's out. You have Nokstella here, so Liurnia, Northern Liurnia at least, is out. You can maybe get away with somewhere here. Like somewhere in Southern Liurnia, if you want to go with, oh, it was on the surface, but then it sank or something, or that was built underground even. It'd just be weird to have a... That's another thing. It'd be weird to have a city that was established away from the rivers, based on what we see with the others. It's not following the river flow whatsoever. Which is why it would make more sense if it was closer to Nokron, because Nokron's probably the first Eternal City, you know, as of Elden Ring canon. Noclateo might be the second afterward now. There's no denying, though, based on what we're told, that's hidden. It's sealed underground. It clearly was active as an Eternal City underground. So I don't think it becoming underground was part... Yeah, like, like, maybe if you make the argument that, like, the Nox were just repeating the stuff that their ancestors did on the surface. But that's a bit weird. Because then you have so many Nox that are moving around and stuff, so like if they all die... Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good point. That's the biggest problem. How do you have Nox that are spreading to other Eternal Cities if they're all dying, right? Yeah, I wonder if the sealed underground thing is kind of like when they use sealed in the context of the Chalice dungeons. And it's sort of like they're playing loosey-goosey there. I have to wonder if Noclateo was always an underground city that was built down there. It was just this super big, like, original capital they had. I tried. The question then still is, like, what about the headless with the pages and the knights? Like, the knights, I guess you could explain if you want to say that they were already the Phantom Knights for Miquella and stuff like that. And the pages, you could say, came with them. But then there's questions about the Fallen Hawk. So are they, like, forcing the Fallen Hawk and, like, the trolls to join them on that? Do the trolls do anything special, or do they just have the golden sword that they pull out? Like, they don't do any, like, sleep magic or urn throwing or something, right? Black Knife Assassins, not crazy to find them there, right? If you have like Black Knife Assassins like running around or whatever, like they could definitely be interested if it's like copying like weapons and stuff like that, because they have like, you know, the knives or whatever. So I could see them wanting to go to this like old city that's been ruined a while and like, you know, left under seal since it's been destroyed. Yeah. Yeah, so I wonder if the way that's designed to be on the surface is kind of a, like, almost a, not really a red herring per se, but kind of like a misdirection there. Because the idea was that it was, like, this city probably designed to be in, like, a large cavernous area underground. Right? Which just means that it's convenient when it becomes, above ground then. I have no idea. Yeah, that's the part that I really am gonna have to think a little bit on. It's very clear the connection between the Wandering Mausoleums and everything and Miquella. For the nameless demigods and things like that. So the only thing I could think of is that Miquella investigating a Eternal City with his guys. He leads some of his guys there, and then they are continuing to perform the ritual on invaders who have also come there after them, namely the Fallen Hawks, and like whatever posse they... And that the pages are from some of those... When you see the pages in connection to the Wandering Mausoleums from Tombs Field, or whatever it's called, Tombs Ward. Yeah, Tombs Ward. We see in the field here, like, there's pages here. Though I don't remember which pages they were. Are they high pages, Xavier, or are they, like, normal, ordinary crossbow pages that are headless down there? Just to confirm. Woo. Alright. Because they make a point of how there's no life there, but they emphasize how there's only the dead and curses. I assume when they talk about curses, they probably mean the Black Knives. Which makes me now wonder if the Black Knives can be truly considered alive, like we've been thinking up until now, or if they really are kind of like point of no return, like ghosties or whatever, because we never see their faces properly, right, and stuff. So now I'm really wondering. I'm not sure. Well, do they have the triple crossbows with the perfuming, or do you just always kill them, or you never really face them proper, so you don't really know? God, getting the game on PC and doing the mod that, like, takes out, like, AI and time limits, I think, is going to be so important when we're looking into investigating some details to these areas in the future. Like, oh boy. I wonder if we're gonna get a camera from camera mod from good old Otis. I guess we'll see. Going back to Limgrave. So we have Noclateo, we have the Rotted Forest, which, unless I had to look at the trees more because I didn't pay attention too closely, but unless like there's something special about the type of trees, I'm not sure how significant the forest this itself is. For all I know, it's like some offshoot of like the Caelid forest. It's like, oh look, there's this tree that's spread over here, but now it's created an entire forest of trees that spread outside. That got swooped in or whatever. And the first peak. Let me see if I can pull that up. I want to pull up the JP for that one. Staff, Albert, da-da-da. Here's one on Noclateo. I've heard stories about the Eternal Capitals. One theory posits that they had a material which is core to life. I'm very curious what this is referencing, but I assume if I do the questline, I'll understand. If you're searching for it, you might wish to visit the hidden capital of Noclateo because that land was also part of the capitals. I'm saying capitals plural here. The JP doesn't clarify necessarily, but it's very clear from context if they're saying like also part of the, you know, it's talking about a capital being part of a capital. It's clearly not supposed to be singular. It's like, yes, the city is in fact part of itself. But no, I think it's very clearly referring to the eternal capitals as a concept. But it's like, yeah, you have all these eternal cities around here, so the land of Noclateo is part of those cities. It's part of the whole, as the localization words it. And then yeah, there's nothing too crazy about what they say about the forest. Like, the most interesting thing about the forest is, of course, what's happened in the history since the rot got in. Silver Tears? Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, because the Silver Tears have the... Silver Tears have that, thing that we use for, you know, reconstituting our own, body with Rennala. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, they have a nucleus of life. Because they're supposed to be, like, half things and half living. Alright, so let's see. Smoldering, Arcane, Volcanic... Oh, yeah, the interesting thing here is the description of the crater as, like, arcane, right? So there's some connection to, like, you know, the secrets of gods and stuff like that. Which I don't know if that's referring to the ruins or something else, but I found that kind of interesting. An old temple dedicated to the blacksmith arts, which was divine work, has been exposed. This isn't anything new. We take instructions from Shadow of the Erdtree and stuff. Most of it has been lost due to repeated eruptions, but one of the oldest blacksmith arts remains within vicinity of the crater. Yeah, so it definitely makes it sound like the volcanic eruptions are what caused the crater to come to be, and has destroyed some of the ruins in the process that were buried underground. So, like, that sounds about right. I'm not sure if the story / lore Night Rain is worth paying attention to, but I'm probably most interested in the way of stuff. I think it's an important thing to use as a supplement to the main game, right? So you should do an analysis of the main game, and then you should like try to consider that as like an addendum, right? So yeah, they talk about the Eternal Cities and what happens to the Nox or whatever, and then you go like, oh, and here's Noclateo, and this is how that would fit into the existing history as we understand it, right? I think it's probably the best way to do it. The Forge Ultra, probably. Yeah, that's for the forging legendary weapon thing. Yeah. All right, here we go. The first mountain in the harsh winter environment that is continually. I put it as culling, right? But the idea is kind of like it's constantly it's basically constantly killing stuff, and the reason given is because of this concept of the strong that which prey on the weak, right? Like the strong eat the weak, so therefore it's very much where you have this terrible winter where like if you're not strong enough to compete in this environment with all the harsher predators, you're gonna die, right? So just constantly is like I guess cutting down the numbers to the absolute essential. But it talks about how like dragon who controls the cold is reigns over this place. Now, yeah, I know what you meant by the arcane amazing. But I'm wondering if the... Okay, so I've never been to the actual, like, peak because we always get caught up, like, fighting all the bosses and stuff there, and then, like, never completing it before we go into the next night. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there an actual dragon boss at the peak, or is it just referring to the Night Lord boss you fight later? And one of the, obviously, one of the options you have. Because a lot of that area seems like it's geared to helping you prepare for dealing with the cold from that boss. So I don't know if there's an actual, like, dragon boss at the peak who's, like, of any note. And, like, the protection, this is the type of term that usually I translate as, like, divine protection. Considered to exist on the peak, hides the power to manipulate chill, right? So, like, the cold, and the dragon will thwart any invader who tries to steal it, right? So, is there an actual dragon boss, then? Like, I assume that's what it's trying to say. Also, the fact that it's described as, like, the first mountain. Like, yeah, I don't think you could say... Like, maybe the idea is that, like, before Storm Hill, there was a mountain here. I have my doubts, though. It would make more sense if it was somewhere here. But it's a bit weird to me as well, because, like, they describe it as the first mountain, right? Actually, they don't say it's hidden, specifically. Well, yeah, okay, the divine considered exists at the peak hides the power to make... Yeah, they only say, like, it hides a power, but it doesn't say the mountain itself is ever hidden. So you could make an argument this mountain has been destroyed since then. There's a frost dragon there with a storm around it that constantly builds frostbite. So is it a dragon like is it like a copy-paste of Borealis? Is that the idea? Because if so, then yeah, that would definitely go with the idea that you would have something here. There's basically a giant crystal at the top that gives the boon. Oh, okay. In that case, I can believe that this first peak, or first mountain, or whatever, as they call it. I wonder if that's supposed to be implying something about how the mountains were formed, then? If the idea is, like, this is the first mountain, and it has, the dragons on it? Because there's very obviously an intention to have it where, like, the giants are on the tallest summit. But considering, like, the chains and stuff and everything, I could definitely see an argument for there being an entire peak that's missing here, right? So, like, before this was here or anything like that, like this here was its own mountain and it was taller than the others, but I actually don't know. I've not actually checked to see how that mountain... I can't imagine the mountain is actually taller than whatever we see in Night Rain. I mean, like, I feel like I would notice if that mountain was, like, you know, so tall that it goes above the water, right? Like, I feel like that I would, like, be like, oh yeah, that thing is, like, giant. Can that describe an original mountain? Yes, that would typically be the idea. It would be, like, describing the first flame or something like that, right? Like a fire of, you know, original fire beginning. You know, same thing here. It'd be, like, you know, a beginning mountain, a starting mountain. At the very least, if we want to try to contextualize it, we have to at least say it's the first mountain that was settled or something, right? Because obviously you have giants, the dragons, like, living there, right? We also see some trolls there, right? Which, again, why would you have random ice trolls there? Unless either A, this was a mountain which did exist and was in fact being used by dragons and giants together. So, like, maybe the idea would be that it's part of, like, the history of, like, the trolls and the giants and stuff moving into the mountaintops. But then they have the swords, I think, right? Like, they have the golden swords from that. So I don't know then, because then that would have to extend the history. I guess you could make an argument that's like Borealis. There was it was one of the mountains that the dragons didn't get pushed off, because we had Borealis, like, just appearing here and stuff, and the idea from Castle Sol and stuff. So you see that dragons like Borealis are just kind of out there. So I guess you could imagine there's still a mountaintop that, like, you could imagine trolls post Golden Order are still, like, hanging around. Though then I must admit I question. I have to question the believability. Yeah, I have to question then the believability of that entire mountain just sort of disappearing only at that point in the history then afterwards. And the dogs and crows. Well, the dogs and crows come with the giants and stuff, but yeah. Actually, do we see the dog? Yeah, you're right. We actually do see the dogs fighting the trolls right there. I don't recall seeing the crows though, so maybe I just don't remember. But if the dogs and crows are there with the trolls, then yeah, that would have to extend some of the history that we have. Definitely post Giant War. So we'd have to believe that this mountain has been around for a lot longer than what we see. I guess if we take the height literally, you could also make an argument that it's like one of the smaller mountains. But then, again, the question becomes, like, where do you put it? I guess you could still put it somewhere here or there, lower down. The best excuse I can have for why it doesn't exist here in the base game, though, would have to be either because of time shenanigans with the Night Realm thing, or because of the roars and stuff causing avalanches that happen to destroy the whole mountain and causing collapse of the water. There's a group of crows boss on the east side of the mountain. Oh, okay, good to know. So you have dogs fighting off the trolls, and then you have some crows off in their own thing. Then yeah, it has to, like, it's definitely including history. Unless the idea is supposed to be that these are things that were brought in from... No, because then you'd still... Because even if you make the argument of, like, oh no, these were just things that were brought into the night or whatever, so they all migrated there. Well, then you have the dogs and the crows that are, like, already there and they're, like, fighting and stuff, so that doesn't make sense. The idea would have to be, like, no, the mountain came and all the things were already in there. Or at least, you know, most of those things. Maybe there's, like, one or two stray things you can imagine coming up later. But it's not like Noctiteo, where they specifically make a point where it's like, okay, you can at least make a case that some of this stuff might have happened post-night. Though, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking, no, I think it has to be all pre-night. Yeah, the best I can think of is like somewhere around here. Because that like borders the area where we fight the actual Borealis, right? Right? It gives like... gives good plausible deniability for why no one tackled this mountain before, or was there, or, you know, how it didn't become really that relevant. So somewhere that, like, neighbored the summit, and could have, like, some giant stuff there on it, but didn't necessarily get dragged into the war, right? You just kind of have, like, this mountain kind of, like, here-ish, I guess. Somewhere in between. So I'd probably say somewhere here. Okay, so at least those areas of the lore, I'm able to kind of like get a rough idea of how they fit. Classes and quest lines are probably going to be the next thing I should focus on by doing, you know, actually doing them and then checking some of the dialogue and seeing like if there's anything relevant lost in translation. Yeah, looking around here. Dude's just chilling. That. Let's get some shot of our Yeti boy. What's stuff with actual hair? Uh-huh. I guess. Something like that. Alright. I think it's enough of that guy. Currently doing a run, no problem. I'm not expecting anyone to get too chatty, especially when the game is still fresh and people want to play a lot. I just wanted to take a break now that I've done the main story, to kind of like, you know, unwind, kind of take a step back, look at like, okay, what's all this story and lore supposed to actually mean? How are we supposed to contextualize this in light of the actual main game? Which again, I still consider myself maybe I'm starting to graduate from neophyte gear now. Maybe I can now say that, but I still feel like I'm a know-nothing when it comes to Elden Ring. There's just so much still that I have to understand and contextualize. Like, there's just so much history, right? Like, I have rough ideas and stuff, but, like, after this, I'm now thinking, like, I think I might want to still do my, my Elden Ring, Nox, thesis. we'll see where I can squeeze that in. But I also want to come out with Radigan's Reign and stuff now, because, well, just generally, I think that it's good to have that done, since people actually want me to cover that topic. And it's like, you know, it's pretty close, all things considered. Like it's more than halfway done, I would say. And then I probably also want to do Liurnian Civil War. Because if I'm not going to cover astrologers, at the very least, I want to get like some of the more relevant stuff to the Shattering covered, so we can have some of that part of the timeline. Because actually, the stuff with the timeline when it comes to the cuckoos and stuff, I think is actually kind of interesting. So, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of cuckoo stuff in Night Rain. Like, there's not even a cuckoo camp. It's just Redmanes or Godric or Lingdell Royal Army camp boys. So, like, they completely skipped out on the cuckoos. I wonder if it's because they felt like their magic stuff was too obnoxious for players, or what? If they plan to, like, add that in a future update? Very funny. Also, it'd be cool if we saw, like, Gelmir Knights, you know, like, actual legit Gelmir Knight enemies, instead of, you know, of them all being, like, dead and stuff from the, you know, all the stuff with Rykard. That would have been fun. Right, the Night Lord door so I can talk. Good, good. You know, I'm thinking about it. They mentioned that the rotted wood they had to construct before, specifically to help them deal with the rot and stuff. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we see anything quite like what we see with this rotted wood, because the idea is the rotted wood has a miasma that's turning you into rot. And the closest thing we have is Niall or whoever. I think it's Commander O'Neill or Niall, I forget which one. Oh, no, it has to be O'Neill, right? Because yeah, I think it's O'Neill. Commander O'Neill, you know, kicking up Rot with his wind attack, which I still find funny how they brought those over straight to Night Rain. Like, unironically, they make them Niall and O'Neill kick up Snow and well, I should say, like, cold and rot, even though there's no cold or rot in the areas that they're doing it for. Like, completely missing the point. It'd be funny if the first peak is Gelmir Priest. Oh my god. I don't think so. I think it's very clearly a different area. I don't think it's supposed to be, I also feel like if they wanted to make that association, they would throw, like, some assassins related to Crow Mountain or something there, right? Or Raven Mount or whatever they call it in localization. I feel like they would have done that just to kind of like tease that connection. Yeah, I think there's just too much snow and ice, and I think it's too. I don't think it could work. But God, that would be funny. I also don't think you can connect the volcanic crater thing to Gelmir for the same reasons, right? Like, I think it's very obviously a separate place, unrelated. It's not like there's gonna be like, oh no, the lava was always there, even though the game makes it clear that it comes from the snake. Yeah, this is the only spot where I'm like, okay, you could feasibly fit another mountain. Now, obviously, game maps and worlds and maps should never be considered one-to-one, especially when they're in separate games or whatever, and you kind of have to take some creative license here with being like, oh yeah, just fit that somewhere. Because obviously it wasn't designed, the Elden Ring maps were designed to have these, like, hidden places in mind, presumably. At the very least, that should be the default assumption, just because of the possibility, right? Mike, it's just a snapshot of Caelid after Malenia's nuke. With the rotted wood, you think? The problem, though, is that there's Godric soldiers that are left behind there, so I don't know, and no Redmane stuff, right? So I don't know how much I'm willing to believe that. I think it's supposed to be a part of Limveld, or Limgrave, or whatever. Granted, I'm not sure if that matters anymore because you have Red Mains and Godric soldiers and just like and Royal Army soldiers all mixed there. So what part is like part of Limgrave still, and what part is like other parts of the land? I guess you could say is all a mix. So I guess yeah, that could work if you want to make the assumption that like the forest like mixed in with some of the Limgrave Godric stuff. But then again, it is a bit weird to me that they didn't include any Red Main stuff then. Hey, buddy, you're on the first peak, huh? I think Red Mains can also spawn in that castle. If so, I'd be surprised because so far in the 2 tries we've gone, I haven't seen them. It's always seemingly Godric soldiers and they're really low level, but maybe, yeah. At least I can swear that my first time there, they were Red Mains. To be fair, it might be easy to mistake them because, like, they're basic reskinned enemies, so unless you're, like, really paying attention and with how fast they die, you could always make a mistake. There's so much red on this guy. I didn't realize how red these dragons are. I wonder if the idea is, like, he's a red dragon, but with all that ice and cold cover. I hear you, asshole. Where the frick are you? Oh, are you one of those invisible guys? Yeah, you're one of those invisible guys. Uh-huh. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, this is odd. We don't see the jellyfish normally at elevations higher than whatever the ground level is for the given area. Yeah, so I looked into the Recluse's staff as well. It sounds like what she does is she uses a certain tree branch and then dyes it red with blood. And, like, it's part of, like, some blood magic that allows it to, like, I guess, channel whatever magical energies are in the area that she's traveling through. Which, in the case of Night Rain, is, you know, lands between / Limveld. So, as a result, she's using the Glintstone, which makes sense because, you know, Glintstone, like, rains down and is, like, inherent to the area, as we see with the mines and stuff. So, that makes sense to me. I can channel that, though it does make me question what exact magical energies is she channeling through blood outside of the lands between. Like, what does her forest that she secluded herself to have for magic? Because it's very clear that, like, whatever the Recluse does, her stuff revolves around, like, these type of blood arts, right? But she doesn't seem to necessarily be connected to the Formless Mother, either. So that has me curious. There's also reference to this Country of Wings, which exists to the west, the far west, right? I think it's the first time we have reference to the areas beyond... I think it's the first time we have reference to areas beyond the lands between as, like, anything at all. Let me do it from here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have reference to this place before. This region of the world outside. Oh. Liurnia, why you do this to me? Why you do this to me? I think the 1.0, the staff was supposed to be an Erdtree branch. That's funny. It doesn't look like an Erdtree branch. But maybe they, like, retextured it or something, right? Oh, no. Yeah, because we see some of the landmass and stuff on the horizon. But it's never been described as such. But it looks like most, if not all of the classes originate from outside the Lands Between, and they've come there at different points in the timeline. Sometime after the night, maybe like with the Executor, sometime before the night. And they end up getting wrapped up in different things. There's also the question of timeline, like what era do these characters come from? Like how many come from the same period? How many come from different time periods? Again, once I do their quest lines and stuff and like start like organizing their lore for myself, I think I'll have a better idea. Doesn't look red either. I have to look at it again and see. Because it does mention the how it's dyed red or whatever, and definitely alludes to that being blood. But it, again, I never looked too closely at the model. So yeah. Could be that they had a completely different idea for it, and now they're just like using the text to explain away the inconsistencies. Missed opportunity to have some of these carriages things like do their thing across during over the course of the 3 nights. Missed opportunity. Whew. There we are. Yeah, I don't see really a lot about places you can put, like, the Raider or Nakateo or something. Revenant's Remembrance is the best? Is that so? Looking forward to doing that, then. It looks like she has a Radagon connection, which I think is very interesting. Because, like, her JP name, from what I've seen, isn't actually Revenant. It's Revenger, right? Or Avenger, I guess you could also translate it as, right? But it's very much like, you know, someone who's getting revenge. And it very much seems like she's like a resentful spirit type of Revenant, you know? Kind of the traditional idea of a Revenant. And she's possessing a doll body, so it's like, oh, like Ronnie. So, like, I think that could be an interesting character to dig into if it's like, oh, it's like a fundamentalist woman or something who's possessed a doll and wants revenge on, I guess, the Night Lord or something, maybe? Who knows? I don't know, definitely something interesting. I feel like Raider is probably going to be the most boring because he seems to just be like, I'm a pirate of the high seas and I love killing things. But I feel like he's probably going to be the most dull next to Guardian and probably Wilder. Because Wilder seems to also be on like a revenge tour type of thing, right? Like, oh, the Night Lord killed my family, prepare to die. Also, the Night Rain establishes for the 3rd time in a row a correlation between the dimension or plane of the environmental influence, I should say, like whether it's like gold or shadow or in this case night, and the trees. Because all the trees in the Round Table look like normal green trees around Grace. Then you go to the night area, and all the trees and the grasses and stuff have become, oh, unplugged, that's why. All the trees and the grasses and stuff become, how do I put it, you know, it's like a silvery gray, right? Almost like a light purple. Very much like a night type of look. It's not quite like the silver we get in, like, Eternal Cities, right? Where there's, like, you know, the metallic look to it. But it's definitely got, like, that purplish gray, like, kind of, like, tone to it. And then, the same happens to the Round Table when we see it consumed by, like, that desert section. So I have lots of questions about all that. Also about the Night Lords and their history and stuff like that. I think also getting together some of that lore for them. Though I don't know where to put in, what's his face? Libra. Like, there's some stuff you can kind of nitpick about, like, the names. Like, calling him an Equilibrious Beast, I don't think is very appropriate, because they don't use Ju for, to refer to him as a beast. They use Ma. So, like, the same term used in Akuma, which is later used to describe him as a demon. So, like, they also describe him as a Mamono as well. So, again, I would translate that as Fiend, right? I know the localizations of the past translate that as Beast as well. So, like, it's very clear they're not, like, trying to talk about him as, like, just some animal. They're trying to talk about him as, like, some sort of demonic creature. Again, this is, like, the only time they ever refer to demons like this. I have to double check. I don't know if Mamono is used in the base game Elden Ring. I don't remember it, at least. But, like, I definitely don't think Akuma's ever used. The Night Lord Expedition has the Grey... Yeah, that, though... That's for, like, the final one against the Nameless guy, which, by the way, I love how the localization was like, okay, no, we'll stick with all these, like, on-the-nose names, like Noster or whatever, or Gnoster, right? For, like, all these different, like, references. But, like, when it comes to, like, a guy that's literally just called Nameless, it's like, no, we have to change this. We have to make it cool. Props to the localization team for recognizing the limits. Yeah, overall, I'm thinking that, I think what we got from Night Rain is going to be some interesting stuff, but it's not going to be, like, earth-shattering. Like, it's not going to be, like, completely changing your perspective on the lore or whatever. Like, the more I'm thinking of Noclateo, for example, the more I'm like, oh, I think we have to scale down the potential lore implications this has, right? I'm starting to think more and more, like, maybe, okay, like, it looks like a city that belongs on the surface, right? But it could also just be, like, Nameless Eternal City, and in that case, like, it could be another city that was constructed underground and has just appeared on the surface now because of, you know, the night shenanigans. Because they're obviously not going to create an entire underground section that you have to go down and get out of and all that stuff on top of everything else. Only demons are Shabriri and the rivers of Okina. Oh, yeah, I gotta look at Shabriri, see if... Because there is a reference to him as a demon. Is there? Actually, no, I think... Shabriri is an actual demon, yeah. But I'm not sure if the actual Shabriri in Elden Ring is referred to as a demon. Yeah, Okina, as I recall, though, I think refers to Oni. Which, again, I don't consider that the same exact thing when we're talking about demons. You know, it's kind of like... It's more like, it's like how, you know, Margit is technically an Oni, right? Like, they're going more with, like, kind of like the ogre. Like, obviously, yes, something kind of demonic, right? Because it's kind of, like, nasty and, like, you know, monstrous. But, like, more so like an ogre type of demon than, like, you know, like, traditional, like, Western conception. You know. Fun fact, some terms for vampire actually use Oni as well. Which is always interesting to think of, considering how, like, Western, you know, vampire is. And they're like, ah, yes, the blood-sucking Oni. I wonder if there's actual, like, JP history to that they kind of adopted the term, kind of like Shinigami. Which they now, like, you know, they appropriate... That term has basically become synonymous with, like, the Western idea of, like, death for creature. Even though, like, it definitely wasn't originally meant to refer to that. Yeah, Code calls Mode Omen Demon. Yeah, I don't know if the term, if that's using Akuma or using Oni. That I don't know. I don't recall that whatsoever. Again, another stuff I should be looking into. But it makes sense to me if it uses Akuma, just because, like, Moog looks like your traditional Western devil. Like, you could totally convince me that that was, like, some spawn of Satan. Alright. I'm not saying anything else that strikes me in Liurnia that'd be like, oh, we can connect this. Which I guess makes me a little sad, because again, there's definitely cool stuff they could have added that's Kuki related to the game with Night Rain. I guess they just didn't want to. The fact that there's bird people, though, in Elden Ring is wild to me. Like, we're literally just kind of saying, oh yeah, there's bird people. It's like, what? Like, hello? You're not even gonna try to explain yourself? Like, why do we have a bunch of people that are like bird men hybrids? Where did this come from? Like, it doesn't seem to be a Crucible thing. At least they're not treating it like that. Are we supposed to just believe a bunch of people just evolved feathers and wings and beaks? Well, I guess when I do the remembrance and stuff, maybe they'll give some hints about the lore. They do imply that there's, like, there's Stormhawks, which could be a process of, like, a convergent evolution. Assuming that it wasn't just some Stormhawks left Storm Hill and went to other places. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. Now, I never actually bothered checking to see if this area is, like, lines up. I'm not gonna bother, it's close enough. If it's off, it's, you know, it's so slight that no one's gonna care. Not surprising to you? Yeah, just the idea of, like, yeah, we have bird people now. Like, I get it. There's horde men. But I think there's a very difference between, like, a bunch of horny guys and a bunch of birds on 2 legs. Oh well, when I do the quests and stuff, maybe it'll reveal more to me, and I'll be able to have a better idea of, like, how they came about. Because it's not like we have a bunch of, like, scaly races or feathery races or something that the game lets you play as, right? It's all humans. The closer you get is, like, dragon people, which just have darker skin. Like, just give them, like, actual, like, charcoal black skin, and, like, those are dragon-type men. You know, it's not like Argonians in Elder Scrolls or something, you know? The Beastmen. Well, the Beastmen, though, are specific to Farum Azula, and the idea is clear that they come from actual beasts. And potentially either have, a mixed evolution with, you know, hind-legged races, or, you know, got, like, super evolved. Like, what's the bird people's excuse? Do the Greater Will just, like, go to some random corner of the world, see a bunch of, like, poor birds and be like, I'm going to uplift you? Actually, do the bird people even have thumbs? Like, what does our Birdman, like, have? Does he have, like, normal hands with opposable thumbs? Because that would be wild if so. It actually would be crazy, though, if the idea is you have a bunch of Stormhawks who mixed with a bunch of, like, humans or beastmen or whatever at Farum Azula, and then they migrated away to another land. I guess that could be the justification if you wanted to use the beastmen as an example. And you want to tie that into demi-humans or something. Oh! Crazy. They have hands? Oh my. Yeah, we might have to make that connection then. They got wings on their backs, but they also have opposable thumbs. Oh. We have controller. This controller. There we are. It's just scaly like bird feet and have claws. Ah, okay. So they do have like little talon things in their hands. Okay. At least there's that. Alright, I think that covers, though, all the stuff I wanted to look at, right? Like, there's nothing, like, I'm not finding any, like, major discoveries where it's like, oh, wow, you know? Like I said, I think Noclatail is probably the most impactful thing that they're adding. Maybe the crater, if it is connecting ancient Civ ruins to the temple stuff. Though it could still be that they just happen to be together, like we see with Subrao and the Forges in Shadow of the Erdtree. But I don't know. I have to think about that one more. How do you think he holds the halberd and shield? Listen, I didn't give it much thought. I just am distracted by the fact that Birdman, you know? For all I know, he's got like 3 claws. For all I knew, he had like 2 claws on the top, 1 claw on the bottom, and that's how they have him hold the shield and the halberd. So. Ah! Yeah, I'm having this thing disconnect way too often. Wait, does he use the halberd because of pun on bird slash bird? That would be funny if that's the reason why. They're like, oh, in English you say halberd, and in English you also have the word bird, so... That would be so funny if that's true. They call them, they don't call them birdmen, though, in the localization. They call them, like, pinion folk or something, which, okay, I guess more power to you, but I'll be honest, I would prefer they just call them birdmen. It's how I feel whenever they use terms like man-serpents. I'm like, just call them the snakemen. They're the birdmen, the snakemen, the hornmen. Like, why are we trying to get fancy here? Dark Souls, you at least kind of got something cool going with, like, Corvians. But, like, it's crowmen, birdmen, snakemen. Why we gotta complicate this? I don't know how Birdman is where you draw the line. It's a bird! Like, but he's a man! He's a man with a bird head and wings! I find it very bizarre. At least with the Beastmen of Farum Azula, I can look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Right? Like, it's like a beast, and they can be on all fours and stuff like that, but they can stand on their hind legs. Like, I have seen dogs stand on their hind legs. That's not that crazy to me to imagine. But birds? But they're men? I've never seen a bird with arms and wings. I'm sorry to say. It's all, you gotta have one or the other. Even penguins obey it. I like Hornsent better. Hornsent's fine. I'm just being pedantic. Gosh. After playing Night Rain, it's great to be back in the actual lands between. But it's going to be great going back to Night Rain and being able to probably get more studies there, and I'm probably going to also focus on getting screenshots and stuff. Which I could get on my PS5 when I'm looking at it, surprisingly enough. The problem is just, like, I can't use cameras and stuff, so I'm probably going to need a PC for something like that if I want to get, like, shots without, like, the UI and crap. But yeah, so I think Noclateo probably maybe get a bit on the first peak. The crater has a bit of stuff, and I feel like Rotted Wood might be the thing that's the least relevant to anything. And the classes I'm probably going to... I don't know, we'll see. We'll see if there's anything, like, really needy about the lore for them stuff, but if it's mostly, like, stuff outside the lands between, I don't know, maybe it'll be something I'll include in, like, the long march or something. Because I can see myself being like, oh yeah, in Night Rain they refer to the, you know, they refer to the lands, you know, west of the lands between as like the far west. The far west. Alright. That's enough for me today. I'm starting to ramble. Alright. I was trying to get the Way of Cutting door open in Limveld. So, like, is this Way of Cutting thing... Is it like a separate thing for a quest, I assume? Or is it like a puzzle type thing that you like can just find randomly in the world, like a random event? Because it seems like the quest stuff they do is normally like an instance or whatever. So I am curious how they make that all work. Yeah, I don't think it could be over there precisely. It could be maybe if you want to put Noclateo where the current lake is right now. I could see that. No, it's just a secret. Oh. Alright. Well, then I'm gonna have to keep my eyes open for that secret in the future. You rarely get the key from crates in churches. Oh. That makes it sound like if we're talking about the America churches, right? Because if so, then that sounds like something that could be connected to you know, America faith or something, like some splinter faction or something. So it could just be, you know, because they only had so many areas they could use. They use the Moonlight Church model thing as well, pretty liberally. but it doesn't really seem to be used for any purpose, right? Like, I don't really... I guess maybe you could argue that maybe the church is supposed to be like a Cuckoo connection thing, but again, we never see Cuckoo soldiers. We only see the... We only see the Bubble Boys, the Golems with demi-humans, and, oh, we also see the Fire Monks that take it over, and the Headless Knights and stuff. So I'm not sure what exactly they were hoping for with, like, the storytelling for that model. It just seems like it's just random church building. Doesn't even look like it's specifically connected to the Moonlight Altar. Alright. Well, that's it. That's enough for me streaming about this, though. Anyway, again, I'm very, very happy with Night Rain and stuff like that. Looking forward to probably playing some more in the future. And trying to now, like, get a little bit more focus on the lore now. Actually do story quests and things and try to, you know, have some fun while also, like, advancing the plot. So that's gonna be an experience. Until then, though, later.